We are back with another episode. It is that time of the year now where we get to look towards finals. The regular season has come to a close, and a big weekend of football here at home. Overseas, we've had the Conti Cup just wrap up overnight, and obviously we've got an international break coming up. So this is going to be a big episode for us. So stay tuned as we dig all through it. Michelle, how are you feeling after a big weekend? Obviously things didn't go your way for the Sky Blues, but your Reds did win last night. So, you know, 50-50 kind of feelings today. How are we?
Definitely not 50. With all due respect to Arsenal, Sydney FC is my number one priority, and it always will be. You will always come second. So definitely not 50-50. I am angry. I'm sad. And, I got so many angry
I
emotions. So
tried
many
to
things to
sugarcoat
say.
that as much as
No,
I could, not to like rile you up, but we will have to get into it a little later. I'm sorry to reopen that wound.
I'm so
Um,
triggered.
Cody, your favorite team got hammered and your hometown team missed out on finals. How are you feeling this week?
I'm actually feeling kind of good. I've just generally had a decent weekend, so I didn't
Okay.
have to work for 4 days. That's always a positive. But you know what? One day we'll see Adelaide be competitive in the women's space again. I'm sure.
One day.
That was the best joke I've ever heard. Thank you, Cody. You really.
April
Oh,
Fools,
it
right?
can happen. It can happen.
It'll happen when they sack
No.
their coach.
No one thought we'd make finals 2 years ago. Whenever I'm pretty sure it's 2 years ago now. Yeah, 2 years ago. Life has a funny way of throwing up surprises.
Yeah, but then everyone thought that they would make finals since, and they haven't.
Minor details, Michelle. Don't worry about that. That's not important at the moment. Chrissy
All right.
Panajara is going to lead us to a league title eventually.
Let's
I hope that's her name. Probably butchered her name. Sorry.
and we're off to a cracking start. Let's jump back to Wednesday. Michelle, you made the trip to Canberra. Probably the one game we didn't expect to end up the way it did, that kind of led the catalyst of a weekend of almost upsets throughout the draw. So Canberra coming away with a 1-0 win to kick off their weekend of wins to round out their season, still leaving them in second last, but at least they left it on a high note. We'll come back to Canberra later on with everything else that happened in the week since our last show as well, and touch on the Jets in that conversation as well. But Sydney, unfortunately, able not to find the net in their last two games of the season. I didn't get to watch the midweek game. What were your thoughts, Michelle? You were there, you got to see it live. What was your thoughts on the game in Canberra, and obviously Canberra coming away with a win?
Oh, look, we never do well in Canberra. I was not expecting a win, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I think there was a lot of pressure for Sydney these last two games, and it's clearly shown. But yeah, maybe not the worst performance. I think Courtney hit the post. She doesn't hit the post. We're up 1-0 in the first half. And that changes the whole game. But yeah, it sucks, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think they played well. I think they played well the first half, and then the second half kind of is what it is. And then they subbed on Michelle Heyman, and it was kind of just inevitable. I think she knew that she was going to score. I think everyone knew she was going to. But like I said, we are not very good when we travel away to Canberra.
Yeah. Chloe Lincoln coming up with a couple of big saves as well. A couple of weeks after we were talking about her needing to kind of step up her gaming goals if she wants to continue her trajectory through the national teams. We had a lot of people reach out. There was a lot of uproar in the Matildas fan group about people's opinions of Chloe Lincoln during the Asian Cup for the 20s. Cody, how did you see this? Obviously a big result for Canberra, but kind of a almost catalyst for Sydney at the wrong end of the season heading into final time.
Look, even with that loss, they should have done a lot better being at home against Melbourne Victory. We'll get into that part later, but like Michelle said, it's a tough place for Sydney to go to. Considering how everything was playing out this season, maybe they could have gotten away with a win. But even if it didn't occur that day, there was no reason why that should have been a reason for them to kind of be dragged down heading into the last game of the season. I know I'm pretty sure I said it on this show, Sydney should have the title wrapped up by Wednesday. Maybe I jumped the gun a little bit there, but look, I don't see it too much as a catalyst. It should really have just been an off result. Maybe it ended up being a catalyst, but I don't think it should have been, in all honesty. I know I'm kind of repeating myself there, but like Michelle said, it's a place that Sydney do struggle to go to. They still played quite well. There still should have been some form of confidence. Why things may have dipped the other way, I'm not too sure. Could have been the fact that it's the young side still a little bit inexperienced. I'm sure we can point to the fact that there was a bit of turnover right at the start of the season. But all things considered, I don't want to use the word bottle because it still was a tight race, and we're going into the final 2-3 weeks where 4 or 5 sides could have actually won the league. But look, it was relatively in Sydney FC's hands, and unfortunately, they did let it slip at the final hurdle, I guess. I want to say one quick word on Koa Lincoln, because I know the conversation was kind of steering there and away from it. But I didn't see the controversy that you're talking about, I'll be honest. But I can kind of guess that someone said that they're not happy with Chloe Lincoln, and people have gone in like crazy to defend her. And I've seen that a little bit, even just based on that last game. Not the last game, the one she played against Sydney FC. People writing online saying how good a season she's had. Don't know if I 100% agree with that. I don't think it's been her best season. I think people have seen how she's played in the past. And mind you, I still think she's a fantastic goalkeeper. I think there's definitely a lot of quality about her. This season, though, hasn't been her best. Good players can have poor seasons. That's perfectly fine, and it's perfectly fine to admit that. She's had one game. She's ended the season on a bit of a high. She was a bit up and down during the Under-20s Asian Cup. She was a bit up and down during the season. You're not saying that someone's necessarily a bad keeper if you make those statements. If I'm saying she's out of form, I'm purely saying she's out of form. I'm not saying anything about her as a keeper, as a person, yada, yada, yada. So 2 things can be true at once. She can have a bad season, and well, not necessarily a bad season. She can have a underwhelming season by her standards and still be a good goalkeeper with a lot of promise for the future. 2 things can be true at once, really.
Yeah. And we touched on Chloe's performances during the under-20s games as well, coming from the fact that if she wants to continue her trajectory into the national team, there's certain aspects of the game she needs to work on. We're not saying that we're ruling her out, just saying that there's definitely some things that she needs to solidify, and good on her for rounding the
It's probably
season
just a
out.
consistency thing as well. And,
Yeah.
it happens. I think there's a guy in Canberra that I know that does work closely in the football scene over there. Shout out Jeremy McGowan. Very, very good guy. Owns a great restaurant down there too. Les Bistronoms, if you're keen for a fancy French feed. But he even said there's instances where keepers in Canberra, they'll make a mistake, they get hammered for it, and to kind of alleviate that pressure that's put on them, the coaches will kind of sit there and go, okay, we'll focus on what you're good at in training, get your confidence back up, then hopefully go back out. You don't make those mistakes again, instead of trying to go in and directly address the issue. So maybe that's a reason why sometimes keepers maybe don't progress in that territory. Maybe that's why Chloe Lincoln wasn't able to play herself back into form as well. But it could be a bigger issue that's actually bubbling beneath the surface in terms of the club, the state, things like that, rather than just her own potential as well.
And at the end of the day, she's 19. There's still a lot of room for improvement.
Being a 19-year-old keeper's hard.
Yeah, exactly. So we kicked off the last match day of the season on the Central Coast with number 3 and number 4 playing it out for, I don't think there was any swaps that could have happened. I think it was just pride. No, it was definitely for that third slot. So
Mariners could have finished third.
Mariners could have finished third. Unfortunately, came out with a draw, but good to see those 2 teams kind of putting it against it, especially Western United after a couple of questionable performances after losing Lagazo, then Hannah Keane as well. Good to see them kind of bounce back to an extent heading into a final series. Cody, we'll start with you here. What are you liking the looks of these teams heading into the Elim finals in 2 weeks?
What do I like? The NPL New South Wales and the NPL Football League 1, or no, Football New South Wales League 1 women's talent coming through. Rasmussen obviously playing in the Central Coast Mariners Academy, opening the scoring, and Chiara De Domizio finally getting a good chance and getting on the score sheet for Western United. Was a great player for Sydney Olympic last season, and it's good to see her stepping up well at an A-League level, finally. I know it was only a 3rd game. Took a while for her to get that chance, but absolutely brilliant that she's been able to find the back of the net. No, but in all seriousness, I think Western United, like you said, they had a little bit of I guess you could say a poor run of form. There was 3 losses there in a row. Yeah, sure, they haven't got back in the winner's circle yet, but to be away from home, going down, I don't want to say late in the game, but relatively late still. We're talking less than 20 minutes to find an equaliser. Obviously, some of your biggest focal points going forward, not on the pitch. You bring on, I don't even want to say an untested striker, but someone that, haven't given much of an opportunity to get to this season, and you still find a way to work yourself back into the game. That's very, very good areas. It's fantastic, and it's probably good for a mental boost for them. Yeah, it's not the win, but it shows, okay, even when we're a bit down on our luck, we can still find a way to get ourselves back into a game. It'll help the fact that they're going into the next game at home.
Yeah.
I don't know how much the last game against Newcastle Jets will play in their mind, but I
mean,
think
and
they'll
their
be.
last game at home as well. They haven't won at their new stadium yet either.
Well, that was they're playing the only team that they played at that new stadium as well. Western United A-League women's fans will be a little bit disappointed. They may only get to see one team this season in the league at that stadium, but I still think there's enough there that they can take a bit of confidence going into that game. The reality is, before this kind of poor run of form, they're actually doing very, very well. So, and the reason why they kind of dipped out of form was they played against a very good Sydney FC side. I think they'll be all right going into finals. I'd be surprised if Jets do get over the top of them again. I say surprised very, very loosely because Jets do have a lot going for them at the moment as well. And probably one of the form teams going into finals, but there's a lot of quality in Western United. If they show up, they play their best at home as well. They should really be okay in semis.
Yeah. Michelle, anything to add? Central Coast, Western United, what are you liking looking forward for them?
I think I disagree in terms of Western United being able to bounce back. I don't think that they will. They've lost their three best players in Taranto, Adriana Taranto, Chloe Lagazzo, and obviously Hannah Keane. They're three irreplaceable players.
Key. Yeah.
And obviously we don't know the extent of Chloe's injury. We know it's a hip injury. We know that she's out for a while. I don't know if they've specified if it's a season-ending injury or whatnot, but by all accounts, I've heard that it's just, she's probably not going to be playing for the rest of the season. So I think Western United have been very unlucky in this back end of the season. I think Mariners have kind of come into form in the second half of the season, and I think they have all the confidence in the world right now, and I think Western United do not.
100%. Now, I'm going to do this next part of this match day a little weird. I'm going to start with the game that didn't mean anything, and then we're going to go through in order of the games that actually affected things as we run. So Canberra did round out the season against Brisbane. They won 2-1 in Brisbane, so an away from home win as well to end their year. Yeah, there's not really much else to say about these teams. Kind of, I would say Canberra well below what we expected of them. I think we had them running second or third when we did our ladder at the start of the season. I can't find our exact predictions that we did, but I'll find that at some point for us. But yeah, just one of those throwaway games. Didn't mean anything to the overall ladder at the end of the day, just kind of playing for pride, and Canberra were able to extend that gap out. I believe that Michelle Heyman did equal Sam Kerr's goal record in this game, though, so that's probably the big standout, equaling 17 goals, and she takes home the golden boot with that as well. And I think her, and with the way the Jets balled out, I think her and Serena Bolden were kind of playing for that goal involvement record at some point there as well. Does anyone have anything to add on that game specifically, or have we kind of touched on everything there?
Oh, look, the only thing I'd add is there's obviously some very poor situations around Canberra right now. I really hope it wasn't their last game in the league, but look, it's probably a good way for them to end the season. We kind of saw shades of what we probably should have seen of them throughout the season. They ended this campaign on a high. I do want to see them back next year, but I guess what servants they've been to the A-League women so far, and I guess moments like the weekend show, what their purpose is in this competition. They provide Canberra talent a chance to step up, and they do generally have a good football side. They do know how to go forward very well. They've got, in my opinion, one of the most exciting players in the league in Vesna Milivojevic. It's a side you do hope or a club at least, that you do hope is around in the future. Maybe not side. I think there's probably a few improvements they need to make more in the back half of the field, but they had a lot of value to this competition, and I would be very happy if they stayed around.
Yeah,
but that's just my opinion. I'm one person.
Let's dive into this now because we're about to talk the Jets as well. Obviously, there was I don't know, it was the A-Leagues, the APL. Someone came out and said that essentially the Jets and Canberra need to sort out their shit, otherwise they're not going to be around because whoever it is isn't going to keep bailing them out. I believe there was turnaround from both clubs. I know there was definitely turnaround from Football ACT, and the Canberra guys that said, hey, we're looking at all options, like we're not giving up. The Jets' own chair people or whoever it was came out as well. Obviously, clubs that have been around for a while in both the women's and the men's game, staples of the women's game, pillars almost. You could say Canberra for sure. What would it mean if something like that, they just pulled the pin on these two clubs, Michelle? Like, as a neutral fan, as a football person, to lose two of, especially on the women's side of the game, of the bigger clubs, or not bigger, I wouldn't call Newcastle big in the women's side, but not yet until we win this year. That's okay. What would that mean for the kind of league, for the look of the league, and the future of kind of football here at home?
It's hard to say, to be honest. A lot of this stuff comes down to the financial aspect, right? Canberra, I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure Canberra was getting. So when we were under Football Australia was funding Canberra, okay, because they were the nation's capital, blah blah blah. Then obviously with the unbundling, Capital Football took over, but that meant that a bunch of the NPL clubs from Capital Football then had to a lot of their money was then going into funding Canberra United. The Jets have been around for obviously a long time, with owners going in and out and whatnot, and yeah, just they don't have an owner. But I think it's so different with Newcastle, and with, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say either about a lot of this sort of stuff, so I'm kind of just going to talk very general. But with the Jets, obviously they don't have an owner, but they're in a small city where they've got a lot of people who love their sport, but they love their rugby league. And yeah, I know a lot of them get behind the Jets and stuff, and that's so great and that's awesome. But when we look at it, unfortunately, like, the reality is, and it sucks, but the reality is that the women's teams, they don't fund the clubs. They don't get the money from the clubs that the clubs need. And like, for a lot of it, like, the men's team is obviously not doing great financially, numbers wise, memberships, all that sort of stuff, right? For Newcastle, the women's team, while they might be doing obviously better on the football field, the Jets, to be fair, the Jets men's have been doing pretty decent this season as well, better than normal. But like, crowd figures still aren't great for the men's side, and for the women's side, while they get probably one of the better attendance figures in the league, it's still not enough, to lift up the academies and the men's side and the women's side. All of this is just one big roundabout way to say that I worry that if City isn't supporting their local football team, their professional football team, why would an investor want to come in and say, yep, here, I'm going to come in and help run your club? And that sounds so stupid, right? Because it's like, obviously we want someone to come in, but it's like, from everything else, it's like, why would they? And it's like, it's just, even in general, like, you take one look at this league, and I love this league with my whole heart, but it's like, we lose money all the time. Every other day there's an issue. We got broadcasting issues now, and that's not the APL's fault. that's the company that that they chose and that they relied on, and now they've gone into bankruptcy. And there are these issues, and it's like, while I do think Canberra will survive, I do think that they, I don't think that the league wants them to go. There's no chance that they would want them to go. I don't get it. Like, yeah, it's a hard situation. But yeah, it's not easy, and obviously it would suck. I don't think Newcastle is going to fold. Sorry to the one guy on Twitter that I know who wants them to fold so bad, but they are not going to fold. I don't think Canberra is either. I think it'll come down to like a very, very last resort for that to happen, but I don't think this is the end of Canberra. So
it's almost nearly a good PR play from the league and the APL to be like, hey, we're not going to do this. Come in and save these clubs, and you'll look like a hero to all these people. Just kind of putting that fish. Cody, anything to kind of toss in here? Obviously, you've had a bit of a sporadic say throughout it already, but yeah.
Okay, look, I said what I want to say on the Canberra side. I just kind of want to see him around, even with Newcastle. Obviously, I don't want to see him go. There was a conversation I had with Riley Dobson I believe it was the start of 20, all on record as well, so nothing that can't be privy to being shared. But her main concern with how Newcastle were going, and this is after her comments about 11 puppies would have done better than what Newcastle put out in a football match. And her thing was, you have the NPL competition, and I'll be honest, I don't know the ins and outs of the NPL in Northern New South Wales. I don't know if those crowds are better than what the Newcastle Jets A-League women's sides gets on a weekly basis. I'd be surprised if it's significantly more, though. But from what she was able to tell me was, these players are able to get 1,000, 2,000 a game because sponsors come in and pump money into the club. And her question was, well, if the NPL clubs can go and source it out, why can't Newcastle go and source that out for the women? So if you're talking about funding for the women's side, there may be a gap in there that you can kind of exploit. Are you talking about funding? Is that going to fund and prop up a whole football club, men's and women's? Probably not, but it does help bring a bit of money into the women's side. If that's been fixed in the last 12 to 18 months, I don't know. Like I said, not always privy to background information. I've said that in the past. But there may be a gap there that Newcastle should be kind of, at least in the short term, looking to exploit. How much an owner may fix that as well, that's another question in its entirety. Unfortunately, look, there is a sense that you are going to rely on a men's club to kind of prop up the women's. If you're bringing an investor, you're asking them to come into the men's side and going, oh yeah, by the way, you're going to have this responsibility as well. And they'll have to be prepared to take that. That's just the nature and reality of it. I forgot where I lost my train of thought there for a sec. I do apologize, but that's the nature of our competition. Unfortunately, these clubs aren't self-sustaining. These clubs aren't in a position to say we're going to prop up a whole professional model. There is that still semi-reliance on a men's program, and then if an investor comes in, it's going to be, I'm taking the men's. I'm here for the men's, and I guess I'll just take the women's as well. It's a sad reality, but it's the one that, until there's significant change and significant investment in the game, that's just how things are going to be. I'd also be interested to see if, look, City have done this really well where they're able to tie players down for multiple years at once. I think Wanderers and Sydney FC have already started to do it. Wanderers kind of moving into that space now. But if you're able to enter the global transfer market as well, we've seen City being able to make a bit of money. The reality is the talent in this country in the women's space, this may be my bias talking, but I think we've got some of the best young players in women's football around the world. That could be my bias talking, like I said, but I genuinely think we've got some very, very talented players. Yes, Japan are really, really good. We're probably second in Asia in that regard. But if more clubs are able to kind of enter that space and do well in that area, I'm not saying it's going to prop up a club, but it's at least prop up a women's team. You've had Caitlin Torpey. I can't remember what the exact figure was, if it was 40,000. That pays one player's wages for a year, I guess. But if you can keep those fees increasing, obviously you tie more players down, you've got less players leaving for free. Does that investment kind of help and at least fund the women's side of a club? I'm just spitballing here, and I'm thinking, because look, Newcastle do have some talented players coming through as well. There's probably more that they can do to tap into and actually put these players on. But let's just say, and I hate to lose it from the league, but you'd get good money for, say, Serena Bolden as well. There's potential there for you to actually go and make some money off these players, and the nature of being in Australia, I think you've got to be kind of selling clubs. We're a selling league. The men's side are starting to do that really, really well. I think Mariners, they could be able to do it in the next couple of years. Obviously, their women's program is still in a process of actually setting themselves up, but there's potential there for A-League women's clubs and just A-League clubs in general to actually make some money off these players. So I'm
But in
intrigued to
that-
see.
On
But
the
in
flip
that-
side, they're then going to clubs and not getting any minutes, so it's then ruining.
Yeah,
the
but
talent
that's
that we're sending away.
another issue in itself. I'm talking about these clubs sustaining and actually getting fees in.
Yeah.
But there's that, but then you also run the risk of losing people come to the games because they watch those players,
Yeah.
right? Like I remember when the Matildas were all playing here in the A-League women's, right? You'd have like Alana Kennedy, Caitlin Ford, Steph Catley, Sam Kerr was playing in the league, like Ellie Carpenter was at City, and the entire starting 11 was pretty much here, right? Because then they would go off to the USL in the summer, winter, their summer, and it was like the crowds were doing pretty well. Like people were coming, they were meeting the players after the games and getting photos with them. And this is obviously, pre-World Cup, pre-COVID. This is a long time ago, but for must be like 2017, 2018. Oh no, later than that, 2019 even. And like people, the crowds were doing well, everyone was enjoying it. And then Sam Kerr gets picked up by Chelsea. She's off. There's one. Then before you know it, Steph Catley's gone. Or Caitlin Ford was gone before that. Alana Kennedy was off to Spurs. Kaya Simon was off to Spurs. Ellie was off to Leon. I remember Chloe was also off. Chloe was off to Bristol City, and everyone left. All the Matildas left. The mass exodus, of the Matildas. And the next season, the crowds plummeted because they wanted to watch these players. And I think while, yes, definitely, we should be able to be selling these players and getting money off of them, I think we have to be smart about how we do it because we still want people to be interested in coming to the games. Because at the moment, people come to Sydney games to see Courtney Vine, right?
Mm.
That's who they want to see. People go to Jets games to see Serena Bolden, of all people. She's a fantastic player and she deserves to be getting this recognition and the love that she is getting because, they're an unreal player. But say Serena Bolden goes and everyone's like, oh, where are they? I want to see Serena Bolden. Sorry, they've gone off to bigger and better things.
Yeah.
And that'll suck.
It's pick your poison in that regard, though, because obviously since 2019, the landscape of women's football's changed massively. We were able to track some of the world's best players on part-time contracts. Now you're talking about we're trying to compete with Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs for wages. What's it going to take for us to be able to go to Sam Kerr and say, okay, instead of playing for Chelsea, playing Champions League, come back home, play for us. How much would we have to put up to be able to do that, to be able to bring her in?
The issue is, if you do that for one, you have to do it for all. You can't go
not necessarily, I think. I don't think I'd be very surprised if there's
we have marquee contracts.
And look, I'll take Perth for example.
But can you put a marquee on someone that's Australian?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure
Kaya Simon's a marquee, isn't she?
I think so. I think Courtney and Kaya are on marquee contracts at the moment.
And I'm sure you're not going to have someone, and I'm saying this purely just in terms of Perth. Susan Fonson camp. Yeah, she's a good player, but she's not going to go to Perth and go, oh, okay, Sam Kerr's earning $600,000 a year with us. I want $500,000. She's probably still going to take, I'm not saying the same wage she has now. Obviously, if we're paying Sam Kerr $600,000, you're expecting at least a professional deal.
But that's what I'm saying. If they're dropping $600K or something like that on that type of player, right?
But that's the thing. We're not in a position to be able to. We're barely able to offer a professional contract at the moment. How are we going to meet what Sam Kerr's earning at Chelsea? How are we going to meet what Caitlin Ford's earning at Arsenal? So that's the issue. We're able to survive so long because we're able to say, okay, if you come watch the A-League Women's, you're going to see the best talent that we have in Australia. We simply don't have the ability to do that anymore. And it's, I guess, in a way, kind of reworking a marketing strategy, saying, okay, you like all these players. This is where we start. And we say this all the time, of course. You're watching the Matilda Stars of tomorrow. Yeah, Serena Bolden's a fantastic player to watch for Newcastle Jets. But let's just say someone like Lara Gooch, especially this season, she's been able to come up, make a name for herself. What's it going to take to go, okay, Newcastle, we have this really, really young, talented player that you guys probably all went to school with and know through the area. She is now killing it at Newcastle's professional women's football club. Come down and see her. I think, it's got to be this next strategy for the other women. It's just a matter of how do you do it to the point where you can get sustainable crowds as well. It's a very, very tough balance.
Yeah. The issue is we've got the most competitive league in the world with no star power.
Well, that's how I usually end up with a competitive league because no one's got that. There's not always that X Factor team or that Rolls Royce team.
Yeah. All right. Let's get back on track. Let's go to the game that kind of started the untangling of the ladders. We'll head across the ditch first to Wellington. I said it. I think I said that Western Sydney were probably going to go across the ditch and struggle, and a 2-0 loss was exactly that. And then it was up in the hands of the football gods for Western Sydney. Unfortunately, the football gods weren't on their side, and they had missed out on finals by goal difference. I think it came down to, I believe, a goal difference of 7. And given Newcastle's result, that's huge. So Wellington looked really strong to end the season. They kind of found that spark that they had at the start almost. We were talking about them for the first 6 to 10 weeks nearly going, they're up there, and then they fell off, and then they picked it back up just too late, I think. Michelle, your thoughts on Wellington's end to the season and obviously Western Sydney's heartbreaking loss, and I believe they were actually in the air when the victory result happened, so they didn't even know. They probably would have known, but Wellington and landed to the news of you're not making finals?
Yeah, well, I did not think that they were going to win in Wellington, to be
Yeah.
honest. I don't remember what I said last time, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't think that they were going to win. It's hard to go to Wellington, to be honest. Like it's travel. It's overseas. It's a long flight. So yeah, no, I didn't think that they were going to succeed over there. I didn't watch the game, so don't really know too much about what happened. But yeah, sucks for them. Sucks for both teams, really, because great end to the season, but for what? Same as Canberra. Great end to the season for what?
Yeah,
nothing.
Yellow fever did turn out for the women's game. I will shout out.
They were there when I was there.
Yeah, the Knicks active, very, very loud and proud sending off for the Knicks to end the year. Cody, your hometown team stumbled at the last hurdle. I'm going to keep using that. That's my favourite. Obviously heartbreaking for Western Sydney to go that far and then lose because they didn't score enough goals. They were probably feeling a little comfortable until they saw that Newcastle result on the Friday night.
Look, I wouldn't put this weekend as the reason why they kind of lost that final spot. I think there's moments right throughout the season that Wanderers will look at and go, okay, we should have done better here, we should have done better there. They let Adelaide do the double over them. A loss or even a draw at home against them would have been enough for them to be in finals this year. That's the reality of the situation. You're talking about, you left, as much as it was in their hands, you left your finals hopes in getting a result at Wellington away. Like Michelle said, that's a tough place to go to. Climate's very different. Travel's long. They get, it's in a stadium where you do feel a bit of the atmosphere there, and they do get decent crowds over there. They got, I don't know what the average crowd would be this season off the top of my head, but the ones that do go, I know for a fact, are very loud, very passionate, and all around great people. So it's not the sort of place that you want to go to and go, okay, we just need a result here, because it's never going to be guaranteed. Yeah, I thought they might be able to go there and get something. That might have been, I might have just bought into their form a little bit too much and gone, okay, yep, they're going to just continue this run. They'll go to Wellington, they'll be all right. But even if that didn't come off, I wouldn't have expected Victory to do so Sydney FC what they did. The reality is, it was a bit of a fluke thing. They'd be shattered at the fact that a result that you think is kind of a foregone conclusion, Sydney FC just at home, even if it's a scrappy 1 or 2-0 win or 2-1 win against Melbourne Victory, you'd expect that to happen. It just simply didn't happen for them. But, and I know this probably sounds harsh, they probably do have themselves to blame. In a way, there were moments in the season where they were really, really good. Unfortunately, there were moments where they were a little bit poor. But as much as, look, it may be on themselves that they didn't make it, they are also incredibly unlucky. I found a whole lot of stats yesterday, and I really hope my math is correct on these. But 26-27 game A-League men's season, 14 seasons you've had that length. 6 teams have failed to make finals with 10-digit wins. 2-digit wins, at least 10 wins. Wanderers won almost half their games this season and still couldn't get in the final series. They were also only 8 points from top, which I think there's only been 2 seasons in the A-League Women's where that gap was shorter from the top team to the team that first missed out on finals. And you're talking, this is the first time where there's been a top 6. Every other season's been a top 4. Seasons have also been very shorter. That you think this year there's more time for that top spot to kind of run away. There are aspects where Wanderers probably are a little bit unlucky, and the reality is, I think even by their standards, they should be pleased with their season. There's learnings that you take out of this. When I say it is on them that they didn't make it, I just mean the sense of there's areas they can improve. I'm not going to sit here and lambast them and say they should have done a lot better. The reality is, what Wanderers put out this season was a significant improvement from what you've seen of the club, at least in the last 2-3 years. So there's a lot they should be happy with. There's definitely areas that they can improve in. But I think there's a good platform for them to be a really good football club kind of over the next 2-3 years. Probably this offseason will be very important for them. I'd be surprised if Robbie Hooker's going anywhere else, but if you manage to keep a hold of Sophie Harding, you maybe bring in 2-3 more quality players, a high quality centre mid, maybe someone with a bit of experience. And let's just say you do lose Sophie Harding. If you get in a quality number 9, they'll be looking really, really good next year. Even if you get another quality number 9 to play with Sophie Harding as well.
Yeah, 100%. The first result this week that kind of sent shockwaves was Newcastle going from a negative goal difference at the start of the week to a positive one. I thought they could win. I didn't think they'd win that well. It kind of looked like Adelaide got to a point where they just said, yeah, fuck it, we're done. This is it. End of season, we're giving up. And the scoreline showed 8-0, put them on a positive goal difference. I'm pretty sure Newcastle hadn't been positive on goal since like the third week or something like that. So huge result for my hometown girls, Woodwood, who you all thought weren't going to make finals this year. So love that. Up the Jets. Obviously, a huge result for Newcastle, and I would say an expected result in terms of losing from Adelaide. Probably not that scoreline, although we've definitely seen scorelines like that against Adelaide throughout the year. Cody, your thoughts on this one? Yeah.
Oh, if it's a case of Adelaide kind of looked at one stage like they'd just given up. There were times in this game where, I'm not going to say it was an even game, but it was a lot more even than the scoreline kind of suggests. The reality is, Newcastle's defense still had a fair bit of work to do. Their keeper had to make 7 saves, and even
keeper
outside
on
of that,
debut, but mind you as well.
how much do you know of Tiana Robertson?
Nothing before she got signed 4 days ago.
So, when Princess Beanie made her debut for UNSW, I went down to that game, check it out, was able to get a minor exclusive with her. Obviously, it was just mainly post-game chats, but or post-game comments, I mean. That was the first time, obviously, Tiana Robertson, this is where she came from. She was at UNSW playing second division in the New South Wales Football League system last year. I remember watching that game, and I was kind of sitting there looking at her, and I spoke to someone that I knew from UNSW, and I was like, who's that keeper? Because one, she couldn't have taken up more than half the goalpost. Very, very small, but absolutely excellent. You could see, even that day, like she was playing against, that was Hills United they were playing against. You could see the quality just there. Like, you could tell that this keeper is someone that deserves to play, at the very least, at an NPL level. UNSW get promoted. She comes up with them. I believe she captained them in their first game. I don't know if she's actually their captain, and I could be wrong in that regard. But looked like she had the armband on, and she did walk out at the front of their side in the lineup, and traditionally that is the captain. But that first game she played as well this season, I believe it was against Sydney Olympic. Played fantastic there as well. And you're looking, it's like, okay, this is someone that's actually gonna stand out in the competition this season in the NPL. Newcastle suddenly need an injury replacement goalkeeper. Done a bit of research, found out she was a Newcastle girl. Actually, was in their youth system for a little bit, and I'm sitting there like, you know what? Yeah, sure, she's maybe on the shorter side, hasn't had that experience at an A-League women's level. You'd back someone like that, but to kind of go in and go, yep, this is my hometown club, I'm a young keeper, I can make a name for myself. I don't know if I was expecting her to be able to assert herself on the game the way that she did.
Yeah.
But she played absolutely fantastic, and it's hard for a keeper to stand out when your team wins 8-0 and you're just this amazing attacking display. But I think she deserves a lot of credit as well, because even when it wasn't at all, there were stages where Adelaide was able to push forward, and she was playing brilliantly.
Yeah.
She's confident coming off a line. She even did half decent in the air, which, you know, you're stepping up to another level. Like I said, you're a little bit smaller in stature, but she was still confident. She was still coming out for the high balls, still doing relatively well. Probably harder for her to actually physically collect them, but she was able to tip them away, adapt to kind of her physical capabilities compared to what a team needs from her. But her footwork, very, very good. 101s, very, very good. Even the way she kind of talks to her backline for a young keeper, very, very good. There's a lot that kind of came out of that game for her, and I do hope it's someone that Newcastle look at potentially to come into the side, maybe even next season. As much as some of the Visa goalkeepers have been able to come in and bring some quality to this league, it does kind of annoy me that we spend more time developing young US goalkeepers than our own. And a lot of the time, we do struggle. It takes forever for a young keeper to kind of sit there and actually make a name for herself. Aside from Jada Wyman, the next only young keeper coming in that's actually getting game time is Chloe Lincoln. And look, we've already said there's been times this season where she's been in and out, but you talk about that Under-20s Asian Cup. Going into it, she was the only keeper playing regularly. Talia Franco, she's struggling to even make the bench at Sydney FC nowadays. And I believe the name's Grace Wilson. They only made their A-League women's debut on the weekend.
Yeah.
So there's not really a plethora of young female goalkeepers actually being able to make a name for themselves and getting their chance at an A-League women's level. Newcastle have someone from their city that's shown they can play at an A-League women's level. Instead of looking for a goalkeeper overseas, yeah, look, she's not going to be able to play like that every game. There's going to be days where, maybe she does have an off game. But why not give it a go? Because in the long term, we're talking about trying to find ways for A-League women's to make money. There's someone that you could put a bit of investment in as well.
Really good result overall. Michelle, I don't want to say it's surprised, but are you surprised to see Newcastle finish in the top 6 this season?
Yes. It is
Yeah.
a surprise. It's a good surprise.
Didn't half of us tip them to come last?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were
Probably,
at
yeah.
least the bottom 2. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a side that has not traditionally made the finals. It will always be a surprise. It was a surprise when Adelaide made the finals. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad surprise. It's a nice, pleasant surprise, and it just means that some good things are happening over there as well. I think that scoreline was absolutely hilarious. Not once in my life did I think the Jets could ever score more than 2 goals in a game. And here we are with 8 of them. No, that's mean. I know that they've got more in their arsenal, but to see it happen like that, like 8 goals, I was like, because when was this? This was
Friday night.
I must have been doing something, working on the banner. But yes, I didn't have the game on. And then just in the background, you could just hear them calling. I had the game, so I did have the game on for like the second half, I think, and you could just hear them calling out like goal after goal after goal.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus Christ.
I turned it on, and every like 3 seconds, it was just like a cheer. I was like, whoa, what's going on?
It's like, relax, please. But no, it's great for them. And it's great, especially leading into the finals, and especially as they're about to face Western United. I think this is the ultimate like confidence boost that you need. I think as well, I don't know how to say this without being like mean about it, but like everyone realistically in that top 6 should be beating Adelaide by multiple goals. Realistically, that side is cooked. They are flat, they're broken. Mentally, maybe physically, they were checked out after that Sydney game. They're done.
Yeah.
They were done, and I get it, like end of the season, nothing to play for except to not win the wooden spoon, but they had already, it was pretty much cemented when Canberra won like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So when Canberra beat Wellington 1-0, that was it. That was Adelaide's wooden spoon cemented for them. Done and dusted. And I think from there they were like, whatever. What do we have to play for? Nothing. And I think this is why a lot of people are, asking for promotion relegation, because could you imagine if we had pro rel, like even in the women's league, like I know we talk about it in the men's league, but it's like, could you imagine that Newcastle game, last game of the season, Adelaide are fighting, they're fighting. Nah, Newcastle comes in 8-0, enjoy second division, see you later.
Like,
and
but
it's funny, but like, yeah, but it sucks for them.
I genuinely think though, like if you had Sydney Victory, Melbourne, Perth running concurrently, is that not like with the way the season was shaping up, is that not like Aguero style EPL end to the season? Like,
I'll do you one better there, Josh. Imagine you have those 2 games running concurrently, and then Wanderers and Wellington Phoenix, and then Newcastle Adelaide.
Yeah.
Imagine Wanderers down 2-0 to Wellington Phoenix, and then looking on the tablet or wherever they've got to and saying, okay, Melbourne Victory's up 4-0 against Sydney FC. Jets are winning 8-0 against Adelaide.
We've got to score 12.
What's going wrong here?
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of concurrent final rounds. It should be the norm here.
Final round should have been concurrent. That would have been unreal.
That would have been insane.
It's not a traditional Aussie culture thing. I understand that. I think in this country we kind of flip between, okay, we want to really lean into what Australians do in sport, and we want to lean to what football is around the world. I think we've got to do something that works for both of them. Kind of find the middle ground that actually works for Australian football.
But
the final series works for us, but holy cow, how crazy would soccer Twitter be if all those games were playing at once?
Yeah, and like if they really want to be, if we want to be taken seriously, like why not? Like we already have a final series. No one wants it, but we have it, and it's here to stay, right?
I like it in all honesty. Like personally, I am a fan of it.
It's
another
fine.
trophy as well.
I think
could
it's
you
fine
re-
for like certain competitions, like knockout competitions. But like, I don't know. I love the idea of like finishing. Like for me, I'm like, I wish we finished first.
Yeah.
That to me is everything.
Imagine if that was the end of the season. Like
Yeah.
like
But you
imagine
need
how
to do
much
it all of
hype.
them running at once.
Yeah, imagine how much hype there would be around the way the Women's A-League finished this year if that was the end of the season.
No question, actually. If let's just say that was the norm in this country, and all the final round, all the games are running concurrently, and you have that big day of holy crap, like this is just pure chaos. Would that alleviate, I guess, the chaos of a final series? I don't know. It's an interesting one. I'm not saying yes or no either way.
I don't know if like I don't know. I think it's hard to say, but I
think
don't know.
With the way the final series is this year with an international break beforehand, my issue with final series is it comes down to luck and not to form. Like if
We need to do more to put on for who actually finishes first.
and you think everybody that's playing in this final series has a week off. Sydney have 2 weeks off.
And City
have 2 weeks off. Like that's fucking huge going into a final series where momentum is kind of key to keep things rolling, and all of a sudden you've got a 2 week break when it should have only been one, and most of your players are going away and playing, and like I don't know, it just feels weird.
And I know Ante Juric has lamented that when it was always first v fourth, second v third, and Sydney FC would win that first game to be able to go straight into finals, and then that week off ruins their momentum.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, especially Sydney FC, how they, kind of end the season not the way you want to. Then you got 2 weeks to either rejuvenate yourselves or stew on it and come back even worse.
100%. Speaking of stewing on it, I think I've stewed on it long enough. Melbourne, Sydney. Michelle, we're going to rip the Band-Aid off and move on as quick as we can.
terrible.
But obviously, this was the surprise of the week. Cody, you've said it already. No one could have predicted that.
I knew we would lose.
Did you think it was going to be that bad?
No, but I knew we were going to lose.
Speak to us, wires, Michelle. What was thy knowingness?
When we lost to Canberra, it was just like a bit flat. And then when we lost Kirsty Fenton, it pretty much killed us. We had to reshuffle everyone. Then Maddie Caspers is injured as well. I don't know. The whole vibe was off. It's a vibe, okay? You just know these things. You know when
Look,
you're
honestly,
going to lose.
like you could see it through the TV. Like Sydney just couldn't string things together. Going forward, they were just disconnected in a way. Like Courtney was doing some good stuff down the right, but it just didn't look like anything was sticking. And the vibe was definitely off. I feel that.
Yes. So yeah, I knew we would lose. It was terrible. Bad game. Great tifo. Rachel Lowe, dead to me. Absolutely dead to me. Oh, right. It wasn't picked up on the coverage. She celebrated in front of the Cove again.
Yeah.
For no reason. Like, seriously, like, you won 4 trophies with us. I don't know what went down with you in the club, but like, it's like Ninkovic all over again. It's like, we did nothing to you. The Cove has done nothing to you. You and I, Rachel and I, have spoken before she went to Melbourne, and like, it just feels like a kick in the gut. It's like, well, what did we do to you? We're just singing. If you were playing for our team, we would be singing the same stuff. And we have been when you were playing for our team. So why is it? What's the difference now? We're not singing against you, anyways. And then Emily Gilnick trying to start another fight with Shay Connors. So yeah, I don't know. In my opinion, Emily Gilnick should not have been selected for the Matildas after her attitude against with Nino and with Barbieri. I think all they've done is reward her for bad behavior, and that to me is unacceptable. And if it's like a one-off, all right, maybe she's calmed down, maybe she's cool, but then she does it again against Shay Connors, the person who is like an angel and who does like nothing, like who just talks to everyone and is like, bro, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? Like, so I think Emily Gilnick needs to just relax and to not be called out for the Matildas, because I'm sorry, but that's not someone I want representing my country.
We'll get into those changes to the Matilda squad in a second.
Yeah.
One other thing, Cody, I don't know if you've seen the clips. Jada's yellow card, absolute brain snap.
I think Chidiak said something to her. Chidiak rounded her up.
Everyone was saying Chids threw an elbow. I was like, that's just like hustle and bustle getting out of the box. Like it didn't look like.
She probably would have.
Yeah,
that side. Sorry, this is my whole bias taking over. But that side were absolute dogs on that game. They were on the floor. They were fouling left and right, and the referee hates Sydney. Stupid game.
Michelle's been holding this in for 2 days, guys. Sorry. Cody, I don't know. I'm guessing you've seen a clip of it. What were your thoughts? There were a lot of people yelling yellow both ways, red for Wyman. I think the ref got it right on the spot. But what were your thoughts?
I can accept the yellow card on the basis that there's a bit of consistency, because I'm sure we spoke about this at length the last when this happened. Riley Foster, her red card against, I believe it was Canberra, where she kind of just bumped into someone, kind of pushed a little bit of a shoulder into them, and they've gone down. Obviously, penalty, she's been sent off. If that's a red card, what Jada Wyman's done, in my opinion,
definitely a red card.
Worse. Really should be a red if you're staying consistent in that regard. So that's the part that kind of annoys me. But other than that, I can accept a yellow. I could accept a red if they did pull it out. It was a brain stab. It was a stupid thing to do. I'll be honest, I didn't really see what Chidiac did in the lead up to deserve that, so I'm just gonna have to go off what I see. Wyman's the one that gets penalised in this regard, and even if Chidiac did something, you're the one in the box. If you do something, it's given away penalty. You've got to be a bit smarter than that as well.
Yeah. Thoughts on the game overall? Obviously, you've already spoken to your surprise.
Well, unlike Michelle, I thought Sydney FC were going to win this match. I didn't have the same bad aura feeling, whatever you want to call it. Bad juju. I'm not obviously invested in this game from me being a supporter of one of the team's perspective. I'm looking at this purely as a neutral that wants some excitement, but I genuinely thought Sydney would have the quality, and being in the position they'd come back and things would just be clicking for them. But look, maybe they succumb to pressure. It'd be unfortunate. This is a side that's been in some big moments. Obviously, there's a lot more young players in the side now, but yeah, definitely not what I was expecting to come out of this game at all. And that's no disrespect to Melbourne Victory. I am shocked.
Yeah. I think one thing at that point that a Sydney FC fan didn't want to see was Morgan Aquino getting subbed off in the second half to give minutes to their substitute keeper.
What a joke. Alex Aparkas in the mud. I hope he gets sacked.
Because there was definitely, I think that second goal that City scored, if
Morgan Aquino saves it. Morgan Aquino saves 100%.
100%.
Alex Aparkas in the mud.
Yeah. I think there's multiple things that happened. I'm guessing you've got no idea what happened, Cody, by the look of your face.
No, I saw Sally James on the field towards the end of the match.
Yeah, so she got subbed on.
Every team looked like they did that this weekend, to be fair.
Yeah, but like...
Listen to this. Sally James at Melbourne City, all right, breaks her finger. Then Melissa Barbieri decides to come on, waltzes back into the squad. Then she doesn't leave once Sally James's finger has recovered. And I'm like, girl, get out. Let the kid have a run. Let the kid play, okay? She was the original number one. You were supposed to be a goalkeeping coach. Get out of here. Then, obviously, she doesn't. Sally James then is like, all right, well, I'm going to go find a club where I can play. See you later. Goes to Perth Glory. Perth Glory then don't play her either, because Morgan Aquino is having the year of her life. And she's playing unreal. And she's being an unreal goalkeeper. And then their last game comes down to City. And then for some reason, Alex Aparkas is like, yeah, this doesn't matter. I don't like Sydney anyway. I'm going to put on Sally James. And I'm like, if Melissa Barbieri just didn't play all those games at Melbourne City, then this wouldn't have happened. So really, all the blame is to Bubs. Thanks a lot, Bubs. I don't like you.
Okay, let me put you down a different rabbit hole.
No.
If Sally James earns the number one spot at Sydney FC, at Melbourne City.
Melbourne City, please.
Yes, sorry. We were talking about Sydney. It was on my mind. Perth go in this season with some other random young keeper as their number two. They get subbed on in that match. Maybe Melbourne City score 3 or 4.
No, hear me out. What I'm saying is that if Bubs doesn't keep playing as Melbourne City's number one, then they keep Sally James and they don't sign Barbara, don't sign Babs, and then they concede more goals and then they don't win anything.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
I think the situation comes down to it. I don't think you so Wellington made the goalkeeping substitution when they were 2-0 up. Brisbane Canberra had nothing to do with the league, so that doesn't even matter. Adelaide did it when they were 6 or 7-0 down, I think. I don't think Central Coast Western United did it. Sydney didn't do it. Victory didn't do it. City didn't do it. Jets didn't do it. Perth.
Jets had a new keeper in altogether.
Yeah, but Perth were in a game that meant something for the league.
serious
mean anything
They
for
clubs.
were,
them.
they were 1-0 down.
It didn't mean anything for them, but
It doesn't
if
matter.
If
But they could have. They could have
if they have
changed
Morgan
history.
Aquino in there, she saves that. They pull a point out of that game.
and do what with it?
Sydney wins.
Yeah, but they
Like-
don't care if Sydney wins or not.
Yeah, but then they get a point. Still, it's pride. Do you not have pride for your team? That's what I'm saying. Like, at that point, it's about pride. Like, at least finish on a high. At least finish with getting a point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh,
I'm
stupid.
on your side.
I
All
don't know.
right. We are
Thanks,
running
Josh.
super overtime. That's okay. I got your back. Because I thought it was stupid. I literally nearly punched my TV screen when I saw Morgan Aquino running to the sideline. I was like, what the fuck is going on? All right, let's quickly go through elimination finals. We've already chatted West United Jets. I think the Jets are going to go out and absolutely dominate this. I think Serena's going to probably score 2, and Jets are going to come out in front. Probably to be torn down, probably closely in a duel. I think they come up against City, I think, being the lower of the two. Victory Mariners is going to be very interesting.
No,
for
it's Victory Mariners. They play City, and then West United Newcastle play Sydney,
Ooh, come
which
on.
is ideal.
I'm going to be back in the country for both of those games, and if that happens, we're on.
Come on, Jetties.
Let's go. Victory Mariners for Michelle's mental health. I'm hoping the Mariners win. Just to... And the Mariners deserve it, I think, a little bit more. To be fair, Cody, your opinions?
Look, I'm not going to go who deserves it more and thing like that. I actually think Mariners might be the more likely to get something out of this match. They're coming in good form. There's just a good vibe around the club. Victory, as much as, look, they've played well in certain patches, I still think there's been areas and deficiencies that are still kind of at the surface. I wouldn't be surprised if Mariners get over the top of them. Jets and Western, oh man, that's a game that could go either way. That's actually a hard one to predict, because if everything goes well for Western, I know, Michelle, you said it earlier in the piece, look, they're missing a lot of star power up front, and they are. But if they can make things work with Dedomitsu up top, maybe they end up going through, but oh my God, you wouldn't want to be playing the Jets now, would you?
No.
I definitely wouldn't be.
Question for you, Cody. Does Nino walk straight back into the side, or does Robertson keep a goal?
Is Nino back from suspension?
I believe so. I think she only got one game.
Oh,
No,
she only
2
got one
games.
game.
Then she's still out.
2 games. Yeah, she misses the final. Well, she misses this game.
Yeah.
So
okay.
yeah, either way. So
Robertson
she
keeps
definitely
it
doesn't walk back into the side
There
for
you
that
go.
match.
So, but that's the thing. That's a massive shift at the back for a final. So that I think that's in Newcastle's, and they've got all their young Matildas back up them jetties. All right, looking around the world, big news coming out of West Ham. Kat Gorry out injured, and season ending. I think she's got to have surgery on an ankle, I believe, which has ruled her out for the upcoming Mexico games. We'll go over replacements in a second. Claire Wheeler's Everton lost 4-1 to Man United after leading at halftime this morning. Villa Leicester 2-2 draw. I don't think either of our Aussies are anywhere near that at the moment. No, and no. Remy Stevenson was on the bench for that. So good to see Remy on the bench at least. City got up 4-0 over Liverpool in a huge second half for them. I think AK played the full 90. Yes, correct. Arsenal didn't play this weekend because they had Conti Cup. They played...
Which they won.
We'll come to that in a second. Chelsea, Arsenal didn't play this week. Conti Cup action. The Gunners did get up. Nice little Arsenal photo of Steph, Kyra, and Caitlin with the trophy and the flag. Good to see them getting silverware. Hopefully they take that to the Olympics and go, hey, we're good. Obviously, a bit scary seeing Frida Marnham go down during the game. All reports are that she is stable and responsive, which is great. Hopefully
I heard she didn't go to hospital, and she rode back on the bus with the team, so that seems like a good sign.
Yeah, definitely not something we want to see, but I think I can't remember who. I can see her face. I can't think of who it was. Russo's comments about Stina scoring the goal was actually pretty cool. So it looks like that squad, although they're not in the hunt for the title, very, very tight, and good to see them get some silverware. NWSL is back as well over Seattle Reign, with EVE scoring the winning goal in the 98th minute or something this week. I know there was a lot of uproar in a lot of the groups about EVE and her position in the Matildas. It's all about consistency, guys. Our opinion's based on consistency. It's all great to do it for your club, but when it comes to the national level, you've got to do it as well. And we've spoken about the inconsistency in the qualifiers, but hopefully this is a good swing for Em, and she can bring that back to the Tillies going towards Paris. Let's go over the changes to the Matilda's squad. Does anyone have it in front of them? Because I did not prepare that.
Sean Fryer.
Gilnick, Sean Fryer, and Winona Heatley in for Nevin, Gorry, and the last name escapes me. Claire Hunt.
Claire Hunt.
There
Yes.
we go.
Yeah.
We love Chunt.
Are we surprised about these changes? Is there
Yes.
anyone? Yeah. Sean Fryer,
Yes.
Winona Heatley. I think, yeah. I'm confused. Is there any other people? Cody's gonna stand on this hill and go, "These are the right changes." Michelle, before I throw to Cody, before he throws everything into whack, what are you thinking?
1 second. I had this up before. Sean Fryer, giant question mark. Okay, 22 matches, 3 goals, 5 assists. The 5 assists is not too bad.
3 goals.
But 3 goals in 22 games as a forward.
Who's she replacing in the squad though?
I don't know.
Like, because it's not a direct replacement for anyone that's out.
No, there's no real like-for-like change except for, I guess, Winona Heatley. But yeah, for me, Sean Fryer is a big, like, why are you in the squad? Like, I'm sorry, but you have, like, she's been fine.
She hasn't been on a radar or anything. Like, she hasn't sprung out going, like...
No, and it's just like, I don't know. I think many people from Brisbane would also be like, what? Like, why is she selected for the squad? I don't think I don't think she was in, like, any of the youth tournaments recently either. Like, she's not been called up for any of that. So I'm like, yeah, it's very surprising. I would have suspected Sophie Harding would have got the call up, to be honest. She's obviously in much better goal scoring form. Even if she's just a train on player, like, there's obviously talent there that can be utilized probably better. Yeah, that's the biggest one for me. And again, I already said my thoughts on Emily Gilnick. I don't think that we should be rewarding violent behavior. And in the same sense, it's like, well, Jada, she obviously made a mistake, a brain snap, but like, that's not something we've seen consistently throughout the year. And obviously we haven't seen it consistently throughout the year for Emily Gilnick, but Emily Gilnick's was a bit more, I guess, in your face violent as opposed
back-to-back weeks as well.
Back-to-back weeks. But obviously they made the announcement before the second defense. Yeah, for me it's like, oh well, it seems a bit weird. Winona Heatley, I can't speak too much on because I haven't seen her play. But by all accounts, seems like a decent pickup.
Are you disappointed not to see Charlotte McLean in here for?
Oh yeah, always.
Yep.
I think maybe she didn't have I think the last 2 games she hasn't been at her best, but I will always stand by my girl.
Cody, agree with Tony.
Okay, I'm not. There's one call that I'm gonna stand on a hill for, and because it's the only one that kind of makes sense. I'm surprised you said Winona Heatley is a surprise, considering I'm sure I've done this about 5 or 6 times throughout the time that we've been recording and said, give Winona Heatley a go in this side so we can improve our depth at centre back. She has been a name that I've thrown around a lot. So it's not like she's come from nowhere. Like, I'm not shocked by this at all.
She was the only one that I wasn't shocked by, to be fair.
Oh, okay.
Like, Winona, I was like, cool, all right. Like,
you just said, I don't know where she came from, what she's doing.
That wasn't me.
I swear to God you said that.
No, I think that's what I said about Sean Fryer.
Oh, I thought you said that about Winona.
I know who Winona Heatley is.
I just said that I haven't seen her play, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know that. I thought you were lambasting the Winona Heatley call for a sec as well. No, look, any of her, Matilda McNamara, or Charlotte McLean, I think would have been one of the 3 gets called up. You can debate which one of the 3 deserves it the most, but the point is, any one of them, you can kind of justify. The other 2, my biggest gripe with them is that they're not like for like replacements, and I've got a bit of OCD in that regard. I would have liked to have seen a left back come in and a centre mid. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen, but even the roles that they play in and what they're going to bring to the side. Gilnick, look, she hit a bit of form towards the end of the year. All right, experienced player. She's hitting form again. Let's just see how she goes if we bring her back into the team. I can understand it. Would it have been my first choice? Probably not. I probably still would have gone with Sophie Harding. But alas, it doesn't happen. Sophie Harding can do whatever Sean Fryer can bring to the team as well. Look, I know you're kind of lambasting her numbers a bit before, Michelle. 8 goal contributions in 22 games, I don't think is the reason why I'd be surprised. My thing is, just purely on the eye test, And I'm not saying Sean Fry is a bad player. Look, in my opinion, she's probably been one of Brisbane's better players this season. But I think even within the A-League, you could probably name 5 or 10 players that could get in that squad ahead of her, or that would still make sense to put in the squad ahead of her. I'm going to rattle one name that's probably even on the lower end of that list. Michelle, if you had to pick between Sean Fry or Princess Abini to be called up, who would you go for?
Neither.
If it had to be one of the two, just play into the hypothetical, please.
I don't like playing your games, Cody.
Play my games.
I would obviously choose Princess.
Objectively, or because you're a Sydney FC fan?
Well, because I'm a Sydney FC fan, obviously.
But like, okay,
choose 2 other players.
Let's throw
She's
out
another
like
player.
I know, but this is the point.
She is a better player. Like, Princess actually knows how to make a play.
yeah.
But that's the point I'm trying to make. Princess Abini probably, if you're looking for another winger to bring in this side, she's probably not your first choice. But you'd probably still have her ahead of Sean Fryer. And look, like I said, I'm not trying to disrespect her or anything. I do think she's a decent player. But like, I look at players like Daniela Galic, those types of people. It'd probably be more beneficial to bring them in.
Lara
A bit
Gooch.
younger, had some good time with down to 20s. Even someone like Petra Trimis, even though this has been her only real breakout season, you'd probably still be surprised if she got into the Matilda squad this early. But they'd probably those kinds of calls would probably still make a bit more sense than having Sean Fryer come in. If you're looking at numbers as well, someone like Holly Casper's numbers are better this season than Sean Fryer's. If you want to look at it purely on a numbers basis, there are other players there. So like, yeah, she's a decent player, but you need to be a bit more than that to be in the Matilda squad, in my opinion. I don't think she's done anything to kind of set herself apart from anyone else in this competition. She's someone that maybe you look at if you're looking for a Brisbane representative for the All-Stars match. Yeah, sure, bring her in. But for a Matilda squad, I think it's a bit of a underwhelming call, to be brutally honest.
From underwhelming to things that I'm going to bring it back to Michelle's comment about not rewarding things. Now, obviously, there was a bit of hype around Sam when the allegations came out about the slur and everything like that. Whether it was said or not, still yet to be decided. But there was another, it kind of resurfaced. I think it was Mitchell Johnson was in the news this week after he came on reinciting claims that Sam shouldn't walk back in and be given the captaincy of the national team. We've seen it with Tim Payne in the cricket. A lot of the other cricket captains, yes, they actually did what they did. I think Tim Payne lost it over alleged activities. But how do you feel, even if it is just alleged and it's never, like, it's proven that she didn't do it, how do you feel about Sam walking back into the captaincy after that? Like, do you think it's a guaranteed she gets the armband, or should there be like a standard that is held?
They're all saying, firstly, they're all idiots because this isn't, they don't know how football works, because they say, oh, she should be stripped of the captaincy like she has it now, like she's the captain now.
Are you saying that if she comes back into the squad that Tony's not just going to hand her the...
No, hold on, let me talk first. They're all talking like that she has the armband now, right? But in football, that's not how it works, right? Captaincy isn't like a full-time role. Like, you're not always the captain. Okay, she's not playing. She's got an injury. She's going to be out for the next 9 months. She's not the captain. Okay, so firstly, can you cricket people need to go away and actually learn the sport, firstly. Second of all, she should never have been given the armband in the first place. Thank you, Ante Milicic, for ruining everything. That armband was deservedly for Claire Polkinghorne and Steph Catley, who he took it from. Steph Catley was the last captain under Alan Stachich way back in the day. And Milicic comes in and he's like, yeah, I'm going to mix things up. You know what's a good idea? Changing the captain right before the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup in France. Great idea. Thanks, Ante Milicic, you absolute peanut. Anyways, I don't believe Sam Kerr should have the armband, but that's not because of what she said. I think that's purely because most strikers shouldn't have the armband for whatever reason. I think she leads well enough on the field that she doesn't need the armband. I think Steph Catley is a better leader with the armband, and that's not to disrespect Sam. I think she's obviously a fantastic player. She's a great player, and she makes us all very proud, but I don't think that she should have the armband, and that has nothing to do with this police case.
I'll bring it back to the police case. First of all, who was the guy that made the comments midweek?
I think it was Mitchell Johnson.
I'll be honest, never heard of him before.
I mean, you guys are just in football world, so that
Look,
doesn't surprise me.
It's cricket, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I fucking hate cricket so much. Honestly, no. Look, and it's not. I don't think it's an issue specifically to cricket. I think there's a lot of the major sporting codes in Australia. The media is made up predominantly of white men from a older generation, and I don't think they fully understand how the world works nowadays, and they don't necessarily like to see one, football succeed, and two, certain people of certain ethnic origins and certain ages and certain genders succeed. On top of that, they also don't understand the sport of football. In all honesty, and I'm going to sound really, really rude saying this, even if she's proven guilty of this, probably still wouldn't take the armband off her for this reason. It's a situation that is blown well out of proportion. It shouldn't even be a police case. The only thing that she's probably done wrong is not telling the FA, hey, I got arrested last night. And even then, she probably didn't need to tell them straight away. But look, the FA will do their own internal review. They'll decide what she's done, if she should have done something better. In terms of not telling them the situation and what happened, probably a slap on the wrist. I'm not stripping her of captaincy. The only reason why it changes is if someone decides, or a new coach maybe comes in and goes, you know what, Steph Catley's maybe a better option. The problem is you can't do that now without the media going, oh, it's because of this reason, because they want to make it such a larger scale issue. I'm going to say this it's a very weird comment for me to say, considering I do work in the industry. A lot of sports journalists in this country are a bunch of idiots. Thankfully, not a lot of them work in football, or not a lot of them work in the level of football that I predominantly reside in. And I'm very thankful for that. Because if I was a rugby journo or an AFL journo or a cricket journo, and I had to sit in a room with some of these people for a living, I would hate my life.
There we go. Perfect. So we are well over time this week, guys. Sorry. This is our wrap up of the regular season. We do have Matilda's action coming up in I think it's the next week. At some point. I am going to Vietnam, so I will not be watching that game. I'll be back just after the final series, so that will be just as the final series start. So we'll be back probably a little later than usual in the week for that episode wrapping up the elimination finals. Let's open the mic up real quick. Any hot takes that we haven't already heard this episode?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay,
Something
cool.
that needs to be brought up. Yesterday at the Sydney FC game, there was a pitch invader who looked maybe about 10, and he ran onto the field within the last 10 minutes of the game. Ran on the field, ran to about the goalposts, and then just hopped back over the fence very calmly. Just walked back. Didn't care. Security sitting in the corner, nothing. Did nothing. He was just watching the game. He didn't care. Then at the end of the game, after the girls have done their huddle, they're still, mingling with each other on the field. They don't go to the fans yet. And this girl ran from one side of the field to where the Sydney girls were and ran over to give Courtney a hug. And once again, no security in sight. No one. The girls looked confused. I was still up at the top of the grandstand, and the girls looked so confused. None of them looked like they wanted to interact with her either, to be fair. And I think one of the trainers for Sydney saw her and was like, "What are you doing? Get out!" And was like doing like a shoe motion, like get away. And then the girl ran, jumps over the fence, and I can see that the Sydney staff, like the coach, like the trainers and like other staff members, are yelling at the security and they're pointing that there was like a person on the field, and they just did nothing. And it's like, guys, do your job. Like, how hard is it to just stop people from running on the field? It was really, really bad. And that, like, we're lucky that was like a nothing situation. But like, how bad could that have been if it was like some crazed stalker fan of Courtney? What if they were jealous of Charlotte McLean, right? Like yeah, Cody, I see your face. Like, imagine how bad it could have been, right? Like this.
But the point is, like, these situations do happen, and if security's not going to do their job, who is?
I'll just say on the flip side, you look at what's happened in the men's games with Active recently and then flip to that.
But the thing is, what this does now as well is like
sets a precedent.
Well, it means that they're just gonna add in more security, add in more police, and they're gonna be hyper vigilant, which means that active supporters might be the ones who cop all the, who
The
cop
ramifications.
yeah, and it's just gonna be so frustrating. And I hope it's not. I hope it's not frustrating. Like if they just did their jobs properly instead of standing around looking like bums. Like it's a situation that shouldn't have happened, and it has. So there you go.
Cody, hot takes this week, my friend.
No hot takes, but I just want to confirm at the start of the episode, I did say Chrissy Panagaris' name correctly. So, no apologies there.
Proud of you fact checking yourself an hour and a half later, my guy.
Thank you. I did it straight away. I just was waiting for the time to bring it up.
All right, guys, that will be us for this week. We will be out of your hair for an entire week, so enjoy the planned break. I know we've taken some weeks off here and there, mainly because of our own absences and sicknesses and things like that. But this is a planned break, so enjoy a week off from our voices, and we'll be back next week. Not next week, in 2 weeks, to wrap up all the elimination finals action and look forward to the semis. Thanks for joining us. This is Talking Tillies. Goodbye.